All right, Animal Talk. We are at Astronomicon in Sterling Heights, a big convention. Lots of comics, lots of cons, lots of horror. And one of the celebrities here is, of course, Linda Blair from The Exorcist, which the role that won you a Golden Globe. But something people don't know about Linda Blair is and they should, is what an animal advocate you are. Linda, thank you for taking a minute and sitting down with us.
It is certainly my pleasure. Absolutely. Yes, I started when I was working about 6 years old out of New York City. And my goal was always to be a veterinarian. And a lot of people don't remember this.
Yeah.
It used to be part of my news media, and people knew.
Sure.
And so as years went on, and it was time to buckle down and get ready for my studies I wanted to go to Cornell. And that's when The Exorcist came along.
Sure.
And as a child actor or anything, you have to try out for things.
Right.
So it was just an interview like anything else. You go in and you read some copy, and then the casting director decides whether to send you on to the director. Well, we all know what happened, and I eventually, I got the part. And it was a very long process,
right,
which years later has become one of the most fascinating films of all time. And I always, say to people, just, be the best that you can, because we were asked to be the best that we could be.
Right.
And whether it was through the acting and the dialogue, and of course the best makeup artists and special effects, directing, the screenplay, all of these different factors come into play when you look at these very large movies. And with The Exorcist, and then I was such a curiosity way back then.
Sure.
They put me to work in the next movie, which was Airport 75.
Yeah.
And my mom and I are sitting there looking at, like, Charlton Heston. And for us, it was like, oh, my God, there goes Moses.
Right.
George Kennedy, Karen Black, Gloria Swanson, the old movie stars.
Sure.
Then I did Born Innocent, which is about, similar to what you, as a teacher.
Sure.
That was about a girls' home where children are being abused at home, and therefore that's why they run. And if they run, then many times they were put in these, young people's homes, and sometimes they don't get the benefits that they need. And nowadays we hope that they do, so that they can come out and understand to live a better quality of life and a better path in life. Then I did Sarah T, Portrait of a Teenage Alcoholic.
Sure.
And that was before, Larry Hagman, who was I Dream a Genie. So, again, for me, I'm going, oh, my God.
Yeah.
It's like, I Dream a Genie, oh, my God. And Mark Hamill played my boyfriend.
Oh, my.
Now, everybody knows today, of course, that's Luke Skywalker, from Star Wars. But then he was an unknown. And he was so amazing to work with and very helpful to me at that time in my life. Just learning new skills and things when it came to long monologues, playing a drunk. That I was on my own with that one.
Sure.
And I was just mimicking a bunch of adults I'd seen stumbling around, you know what I mean?
The holiday
but
party.
anyway, so life goes on, and I worked with Martin Sheen and Sweet Hostage. Later on, Richard Burton with The Heretic.
Yeah.
Roller Boogie, Hell Night, Wild Horse Hank, Ruckus with Dirk Benedict, Ben Johnson, and Richard Farnsworth. These were our great cowboy heroes.
Oh, my gosh, yeah.
So time went on, but then it became, but what about me?
Yeah, you never able to do the vet school, right? You were
And
so
I
embroiled in Hollywood.
Started feeling, what about me? What about my dreams? I've done everything to please everybody else, but I was not fulfilled. And a person introduced me to a man named Chris DeRose from Last Chance for Animals.
Okay.
I learned about what was happening with shelters, what was happening with the large research facilities in America that were experimenting on dogs, cats, rabbits, primates. And I joined Chris, and he'd been a former police officer. And I would actually scout out shelters to watch them in the middle of the night, where the dogs and cats were taken out and put in the vehicles that take them over to such places as UCLA.
Right.
And Chris is the one that busted UCLA wide open. in the 80s to show what was going on behind closed doors. So that's the movement that I come from, which is animal welfare and in opposition of animal research, because there isn't any physiological backing that these match up with the findings that they need. Right. So as far as I'm concerned, there's a lot of loose cannons out there that they want the money to do the research, but it's so they can have a home, they can have a job, they can put their kids through school. And that's the way I look at it, because I don't think the findings are all true. Then I got very involved with AIDS, the crossover, and cancer and different things. One day I also worked with Variety, the children's charity, so we would help out by doing all the, the toy drives, the blankets and jackets and things, and we'd go in the hospitals with the kids that had limbs or cancer or whatever ailments that they were going through, and we'd bring Santa Claus, we'd do this and that. And I was doing all this for everybody else, but one day I turned around and saw the dogs and cats were in trouble, and I had been donating my time with all the large organizations, the Humane Society of the United States, ASPCA, but I felt like, wait a minute, we shouldn't have a puppy mill. We shouldn't have a pet overpopulation. Animals shouldn't be dying in the shelters. And that's when I eventually founded the Linda Blair World Heart Foundation.
So when did you start that? When did it start?
I became a corporation in 2001.
Okay.
And that's the same time that I wrote my book, Going Vegan.
Sure.
And it's my life's journey. It's called Going Vegan, and the book talks about the path, because when I was 19 and I actually had an ulcerated intestine, the stress of being very, very famous.
Sure.
There's a lot to it that people don't realize, and that's why sometimes you'll see people struggle with either alcohol or drugs or whatever, and for me it was kept internally, and I liked ice cream.
Oh, yeah. Those dairies will do you, right?
The dairies will do you in. So the doctors basically said you have to figure it out. Decompress, get rid of your stress, which is really hard. And so I started meditating and learning different things, but really was trying to find the road to a healthy life that I could stay alive.
And you were able to find that through Going Vegan?
For me, it was Going Vegan.
So what are people going to find, before we get back to the dogs and the World Heart Foundation, so what are people going to find in the book, Going Vegan? Is it, are there recipes, or is it just your story and guidelines?
It talks about my journey and what is actual fact about the farming industry, how the cause and effect on our planet.
There's all those words in here that on the back of labels that you have no idea what they are.
Exactly. It talks about reading labels and understanding. The healthier it is, the more limited ingredients, obviously the better.
Right.
And so I think a lot of people are starting to understand now a healthier lifestyle, and it isn't fast food industry. The minute that I stopped eating fast food, I dropped 10 pounds.
Hey,
the minute that I stopped eating it, I stopped having a lot of stomach aches. The dairy absolutely is not my friend, and it's not a lot of people's friend. So once you start eliminating it from your diet, and a lot of people now are understanding, whether it's soy or almond or rice, all these different choices that you have. There's a lot of products out there now that make it easy in your supermarkets. Just ask them where's their vegetarian, vegan section. You can go to a health store. They're everywhere now. And you can learn anything you want online. It doesn't even have to come from me. And almost every book that talks about going vegan, they basically are saying the same thing that I did, but I started so long ago. And then, of course, I show a lot of pictures of my life and my chickens and dogs and horses and my all the different animals that I had through the years. And I talk, that's my first dog, Sonny Boy. And he's the big pit bull that followed me home in 1997 and changed my life forever.
So if somebody's just a fan of Linda Blair, this is a great book to pick up, because there's some personal stories in here and a lot of personal pictures, which is going to be fun, and then the recipes, and so being nice to animals and not eating them, which is good. So I haven't quite reached the vegan or vegetarian lifestyle yet, but let's get back to the World Heart Foundation. What is the goal? Do you have a mission statement? What is the goal, and what's your focus with the World Heart Foundation?
So as far as a mission statement, it certainly is on. It's on all of your 501c3 records. It's on my website and so on. You have to post what you're about. It's for animal and human welfare.
Okay.
So the human side would have been all the work that I've been doing for health reasons and food, how we farm animals, pesticide use, where cancer is coming from, so on and so forth. Our seabeds, be very cautious about where you get your seafood.
Right.
And there's many different things. People have learned a lot. Some people just like to be closed-minded and they just want, if it's in front of me and it's in this store, it must be okay and healthy, but not necessarily.
Or ethically farmed or ethically harvested from the sea.
Absolutely.
And that's not always the truth, even in your big box stores. That's not always true.
And there are many other issues with how things are farmed and the waters and what the food is that the fish are getting or the animals. There's just a lot of contamination. And if more people understand that, they will understand maybe where some of the cancer and different sicknesses are coming from that lower your immune systems and so on. So that would be the human side. That's the human welfare.
Okay.
Along with caring for another in need that is sickly or as even our veterans.
Right.
I try to cater to them by helping them find dogs as companions.
Sure.
As far as the animal rescue, so I started out walking the shelters.
Yeah.
And was really overwhelmed with how many, there's a little poodle, a terrier, of course there's pit bulls, and there's this and that. This is back in 98, 99.
Sure.
And I'm like, well, why are they going to be euthanized tomorrow? And they said, well, Linda, they have a cold. Oh. And that is what they were euthanizing for back then. And it still is something where they will give us notice, 48 hours notice of euthanasia because it's having trouble with its respiratory because you can't get well.
Right,
they are not shelters. These are basically places that the animals, 90% of the time, this is end of life. We are euthanizing way, way too many animals in our shelter systems. So then my mother got sick. So I'm walking the shelters. I'm still working movies, shows, like Scariest Places on Earth.
Yeah.
And my mother was sick, and I spent time in Connecticut with her and was there till the end. And when she passed, obviously, if anybody knows me, and many people go through this, it's a part of you that passes with them.
Oh, yeah.
And we don't know how to move on and what to do. So I just worked and I did. And then I just finally just sort of ended up in Florida with my dad and just said, I need to cry. I need to go to the beach and cry.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, he went with me. He wanted to go, and he was driving. We had a very bad car accident.
Oh.
And it, again, changed my life forever, and I had to go. I had a lot of neurological damage, and my dad survived, and I survived, but it took years for me to get back on track, and a lot of people don't know this. So then Mom was gone, and I had my dad, but I really felt compelled to make a difference in the world with the animals. I still was not off track with wanting to do something.
Right.
Like, I couldn't be a veterinarian. I just wasn't going to be able to have the time to go back to school.
Yeah.
So I found that animal welfare work is international, national, and our country right now is at the biggest crisis time in history. The pet overpopulation is so extreme, and people think it's okay to abandon an animal, whether it's at a shelter, on the streets. There's a lot of stuff. The South has their stories.
Right.
Texas has their stories. The North has their stories. Everybody has a different story of how they see animals, how they view them. And you have a lot of people that have found, well, if everybody wants a small dog and I can sell to pet stores, you have all these puppy mills.
Yeah.
I worked with Last Chance for Animals, and we did, and it's on my website where you'll see me talking at the puppy mills in Lancaster, Pennsylvania, and that's against the Amish. The Amish are a force to be reckoned with. They're serious.
Okay.
And we got into it with them, and I really don't understand why they are allowed to do what they're doing with animals. And so that is one of our biggest problems. And then you have the state that I'm born in, which is Missouri.
Sure.
And my friend Randy Grimm from Stray Rescue St. Louis dedicated his life. And I became friends with Randy, and I used to go down to southern Illinois where we would rescue. And I mean, they're animals near frozen on the side of the road. We were picking them up, getting them care, going out and feeding the strays. There are strays everywhere, and everybody knows a story across America at this point. Everybody now has seen an animal abandoned, thrown out of a car, a precarious situation. The animal cannot get out of themselves, whether it's a cat or a dog.
Right.
There's a lot of great people now that are catching the cats, doing catch and release.
Yes.
These are really important programs. The animals, if you see something, say something. If you see something, do something.
Right.
With these fires that hit California, it was like something we had never seen.
Right.
And to watch people absolutely overwhelmed with fire, running down the streets trying to drive, but their tires were burning. This is the new norm, and it was weather-driven. Yes, created by some of the power companies because their power lines came down, and that is where all the lawsuits are right now. But in order for these firestorms to happen, it took wind, and it was, people lost their lives, and the animals, everything. When we talk about paradise, it's gone.
Yeah.
And so much more when it burned towards Malibu.
Right.
It didn't, there was no name, Oprah Winfrey. It wouldn't matter. The weather and fire has no ability to say, oh, well, it's so-and-so's house. You know, it's
gotta go.
And there was so many people that lost so much.
Yeah.
So I begged people when the polar vortex was coming, we knew immediately, this is history. We have never seen this before, but it's the new possible norm that we need to protect ourselves and our animals and understand what...
Yeah, they can't deal with that outside, that cold.
It's 7 degrees here outside right now.
Yeah.
It's cold. That is cold.
Without shelter, those animals are not going to make it. So is there a physical shelter that you're involved with, or do you just help support some of the shelters? Like if you're notified that a dog is on the euthanasia list and you go rescue it, where's that dog ending up?
So in 2003, I was working on the book, Going Vegan, and I had my dog Sonny Boy, who had followed me home, and that was in 1997, and that was the height of the pit bull fear, the prejudice, all of the factors that came into play of me seeing this dog come out of the bushes that I've never heard of or seen before, but the news media is telling me that this dog is a killer.
Sure. Oh, yeah.
So I, of course, am running home with my dog going, oh, my God, I'm going to have a chicken head on the end of my leash. I get in my driveway, and he came around the corner, and he was like looking at Eeyore. The head was down, the tail was down, and I could see a lot of... like he'd rubbed himself raw trying to get out of somewhere.
Right.
And I'm looking at him out the window. My dog is reacting positive, not negative.
Sure.
And, of course, that's going to tell me something. So I decide to go out and approach and say, are you okay? And his communication with me was, I need help. Brought him water, brought him some food. My dog's inside going, I want to play.
Yeah.
Long story short, I took him in. He changed my life. He showed me how to live life again, smelling the roses, playing with the toy, laughing, smiling, loving. And I will be forever grateful to him. Oh. It's a famous story. And then I went on to learn about dog fighting.
Oh, yeah.
And I have some of the last of the journals and all the dogman books. I have all that stuff protected. You can't find it anymore.
Yeah.
Well, some can. I mean, there's still a lot of unfortunate circumstances going around. The dog fighters have never gone away.
Right.
But anyway, I went on to fight against dog fighting, and it's very famous, and it's called Break the Chains Against the Fighters.
Oh.
And I went up against Charlie Brown in Denver, Colorado, to stop him from creating the breed ban in Denver. We didn't win. So it was Tia from Villalobos, which people know as Pitbulls and Parolees, the TV show. Tia and I are very similar and we were just 3 miles apart. We both had properties for the dogs, and we're fighting. We didn't beat Denver, but we did fight in Sacramento, California, and that was really important. Once it's in your backyard, and we all just basically did everything that we could to stop the ban, because if the ban was in place in California, it would snowball across America, and this breed, and then it goes into Shepherds and Dobermans and Rottweilers and so on. So understand that that's what a breed ban is, but the breed-specific legislation that followed it is why people are being forced to give up their pets, which is why the shelters are full, because they say you can't have that. With your insurance, you can't have that. So I say change insurance companies, get a rider, do anything.
Sure.
Don't give money to people that don't have the same beliefs that you do.
Sure.
Protect your animals. Spay and neuter is so important right now. Rescue, volunteer, be part of the communities. I say be my boots on the ground across America, and that will help us to make a difference and make change. I beg people to follow us on Linda Blair World Heart Facebook, Linda Blair World Heart Foundation, Facebook, Instagram, Linda Blair WF, Twitter, Linda Blair WF. Please follow me. I hope to think that what I'm saying is important to make change, to protect the animals, how we can make a difference, because we are at full-blown crisis level.
Yeah, so lindablairworldheart.org is the website. And then there's through the Amazon Smile, if people are clicking through and doing some shopping, they can pick the Linda Blair World Heart as the recipient of the shopping there. And you got a couple of deals that the people can find with Chewy and BarkBox, and they're going to find those things on your website, a way to get involved and donate.
Bit. Right. Okay. And I always say to people, look at your community, your shelter, your rescue groups. Ask what they need. Towels, blankets, sheets, food, volunteers, boots on the ground. We need help. Just because we're going in the shelters or we're rescuing animals, foster homes. Rescuers cannot do things. Now, I have a property north of Los Angeles, right by Tippi Hedren's place, which is Shambhala for the Lions and Tigers. She was one of my mentors. A lot of my mentors are older now and or have passed. Tippi is very much responsible for helping me to find how to achieve the 501c3, the nonprofit, and just stay in the course. So when I come out, we fundraise 100% through the autographs and photographs. Anything, the meet and greets with Linda Blair is truly for 100% of the donations goes to the Linda Blair World Heart Foundation.
Linda, I don't want to keep you because you're here and you're talking to people and there's a line of folks waiting for you. I want to cut you loose because I want to keep you for an hour, but your people are going to get mad at me.
Why don't you want to? You don't want to just keep me?
No, I do want to keep you. I totally keep you. So. But they said I got to cut you loose. But I want to have you back on and we'll chat. Yes.
That I have on my website, I have an amazing, this is so important, the emergency preparedness. I'm one of the main rescuers of Hurricane Katrina, I went down there because I just emotionally had to, spiritually had to. I rescued 51 dogs. We helped to get the remaining 350 animals out of Gonzales, which is in in Louisiana.
Right.
And so it's on my website, it's on Facebook. She'll probably repost. Really important, towels, blankets, food, everything for you and your family, in your cars, in your homes.
You should have a plan for yourself and for your pets. You should include it. People forget to do that. We had FEMA on, and we talked about exactly that after the crisis. And
my friend Gretchen Weiler has since passed away, and she was the one that was instrumental in all the red light programs for giving awareness, giving notification when they're going to euthanize an animal. But she also put together all the plans for the emergencies that would go into place the minute something was happening. But mostly for the animals, I beg people to always have your crate on hand in case you have to go for you and your animals. And the others, if you ever want to remember the movies that I made, maybe my dear friend Jen will put up my movie list, and it's the family-friendly movies from Repossessed with Martin Sheen, Roller Boogie, all of these different fun movies. There's at least 50 that are family-friendly. I gave all my life to entertainment for the human spirit, to feel something, to love, and to laugh. But this is my heart, and I ask people to join me in my Linda Blair World Heart Foundation to make change for the animals and people in need.
Thank you so much for everything that you're doing. This is really amazing. I want to get a number or an email and have you on when we're recording in the studio and just give you a phone call and we can sit and not be rushed.
And we talk about cancer programs. I have a 3-year program now, cancer's dogs and living without chemo and radiation. I'm
right
3
on.
years. So it's all through food, people.
Yes.
Grain-free, grain-free, grain-free. Be careful what you feed your pets. It does make a difference of life and death.
All right, so LindaBlairWorldHeart.org. Linda Blair, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Good.
Oh, I can talk.